Hey everyone. Well, we're back on a different platform. And if you're just getting the alert because you're subscribed to us, this is not one of our weekly live series that we've been doing, but a completely new one and a little bit on the fly because we're having some technical difficulties. But we're here now. So never fear. If you have questions, drop them into the comments, whether you're following us on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn. We want to hear your comments. And, we've got our subject matter expert here, Kartik, who has been with the company over 9.5 years, what I've learned. Kartik, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to QuestionPro and how you've gotten so much knowledge over the years?
Yep. I think my journey started, back in I guess early 2011, and at the time, there was a small office of QuestionPro in a very small city called Nasik. And at
Okay.
that time, if you wanted to really work in IT, it was either work for QuestionPro or change your city. So that's how I actually came to QuestionPro. And I pretty much started at the ground level as a regular kind of account executive or support executive, whatever you could call it at that point. We're a very small company, and then since then, it's been fun, it's been challenging. And the fact that I'm the sales director right now, and I'm very intricately involved in product, and I have fair knowledge of not only
Hmm.
QuestionPro, but systems of research in general that integrate with QuestionPro, even some of our competitors. It's just been a very fun journey, very different journey. Every year has been substantially different from the last one, which is like the best part of the journey so far.
I love that. And you have been really, this whole session was inspired by something that happened at X Day.
Yes, yeah.
And kind of tell us how that came to be as we have people joining still. We're just gonna, keep it going until we've made sure all the people who are on our webinar have moved over. So tell us how this came about during next day. You're kind of stuck.
Yeah, yep. So I think on Edge Day, the session was really to give a bit of insight on where we are going as where's the product going, what's the vision, and just take some high level questions. But as the questions started coming in, it was almost like a eureka moment for some of us here, where we realized how vast the tool is, and
Mhm.
there are so many permutations and combinations to use the same kind of feature. Like if you were to take branching as an example, there are 10 different ways to use it. So we kind of realized that you need something more than a help file. Sometimes the use cases are very specific to users, and we didn't have enough time, and the platform wasn't right to possibly answer all
Mhm.
of them. So I think that was probably that gave birth to maybe for the first of hopefully a series of such episodes that we could do.
Yeah, I really think that you hit the nail on the head. Is like sometimes you need more than a help file. I think that is for reals the answer to everyone's question. So why don't we get started? Um, if you're joining us again, my name is Crystal Leese. I'm the Director of Marketing here at QuestionPro, and we are so excited that you're here. Along with me is Kartik Bhatt, who I would say is our secret weapon or our QuestionPro, like, best kept secret. Because if everybody knew you could solve their problems, you'd be on every call. Um, and if you didn't know, QuestionPro is a full service platform of all sorts of things, whether it be your employee experience, your customer experience, your survey tools, your communities, your panels, services and partnerships. We really are here. And I'm sure, Kartik, as the main sales guy, could do it a lot better than I can. He can, but that's not what we don't have him here selling today. Sure that they are able to join us here on YouTube instead of on Zoom. And then if you're able to if you want to ask a question, make sure you put it in the comments section, and that will come up into our live stream, and we'll add it and we'll answer it in real time. But thankfully, we had lots of people ask questions ahead of time. So Kartik, are you ready?
Yep, I'm all set.
Okay, here we go. Oh
Super,
my gosh,
super excited.
so many questions. Okay, does QuestionPro have skip logic? Let's start with the basics.
Awesome, awesome. I'm liking that I'm getting the easy ones first, I guess. And awesome. So let me quickly, share my screen as I actually answer the questions, I guess.
Let me pull my screen down. And
And
then, can you share your screen?
yep, I'm just doing that right now. And just
Okay.
confirm once you can see it.
Oh, infinite. There we go.
Awesome, awesome. Can you see my screen? Hopefully the question pro screen should be up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect, perfect. So absolutely, I mean, skip logic is, I guess, the probably the backbone of any survey. So not only do we have skip logic, we have advanced skip logic, display logic, show hide options, questions, you name it, and you can do it on Question Pro. I'm quickly going to show you an example of possibly simple and maybe a little bit advanced skip logic. So I've just come to one of the surveys that I already have, and let's say here we are qualifying someone for we're doing a research on people who use smartphones, and really we are looking at a demographic of maybe 18 to 44. So I'm going to set up a logic that says that only if you're between 18 to 44 and you own a smartphone do you qualify. So I can go to logic, and this is where you'll see a list of all the logic that you have. So obviously a simple skip logic, where I could just say that if I say yes, go to the next question or jump to whichever question you need to. And if I say no, probably there's a different set of questions for your control group, or you could also just terminate them or something like that, right?
Okay.
Or I could also go into, what we call compound branching, where I could say, let's say Gen Z who own a smartphone. And the reason you want to name these is kind of you can reuse this in any other logic you need as well. So it's good to give a relevant name here, and then setting it up is super easy. I could say, okay, what's your age? Needs to be between 18 to 44.
Oh, so many options.
Yep, and just select the next question, and just you're all set, right? And once that's set, what should happen if the criteria is met? So I could say, it needs to go to the next question, and if not, just probably disqualify them, which we call as terminate. Right? So as simple as that.
So the short answer is yes, we have skip logic, and if you need to do it, you're the expert. No kidding. That's awesome. And so you kind of went through two different types of skip logic. You went through skip logic and then compound branching. And then how many other types of logic do we have?
So yep, so I'll just quickly share my screen again, and I'll
Just
just
keep
give a
it
quick
shared, Kartik. I think
overview.
we're just gonna
Yep,
or you're gonna be on and off all the
and
time. Here,
here we go
are
again.
you
Yep.
ready?
So if you just yeah, I'm just sharing my screen again, and yeah, if you just go to logic on any question, right? So wherever you need the logic to be triggered, I just click on logic there, and here you pretty much see all the logic options that are available for that question, right? So some of the advanced questions might have a few lesser logic that you could do, and some of the basic ones will have much more. But in general, obviously you could do a simple skip logic and compound logic that we already went through. We
Okay.
got show hide question logic, which essentially determines whether you want to show or hide a question by default, and under a particular criteria you want it to be shown, right? So that's what we call show hide question. Similarly, you got show hide options, where let's say which brand of smartphone do you own, and then based on the brand you select, only the options relevant to that brand should show up. So this kind of stuff can very easily be done with show hide options. Quota control, if you want a set amount of people to answer certain options. So again,
Okay.
you have 4 or 5 brands of phones, and then you want about 20% for each brand. So that's where you would set a quota for different options. Dynamic text comment box is, if someone answers a particular option, you really want an open-ended question or some more details about that, something dynamically ask you for some more data.
Mm-hmm.
Extraction is, based on what you select, you have some follow-up questions, right? So again, which vehicle do or which vehicle do you own in your household or something like that? And maybe it's a car, it's a SUV, it's your motorcycle. So based on what you select, you have some follow-up questions. So you can do that using what we call extraction, a very common kind of methodology in research.
Very
Scoring is
common. No, I'm kidding.
absolutely. And then you got
um,
scoring. This is, I think with the pandemic, I think a lot the usage of our scoring has grown a lot. Like people are doing tests where you have like different sections of a survey. Each section is scored differently. In the end, you want to show the respondent, how much he scored in each section. Did he pass each section? Did he pass the overall test? So things like that. Scoring kind of makes it very easy to run these, in a fairly automated kind of way.
that's great.
But perfect, perfect. That kind of covers, some of at least the, I would say,
It
day-to-day
covers
logic, and then
probably
the
covers
common
even more
logic.
questions. And it looks like we have some more people joining. And so I just want to apologize for the um, Zoom mishap. And if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn, make sure to add your question in the comments and we will get them answered. But in the meantime, are you ready? Keep your screen shared, Kartik. I've got the next
Yep,
one already keyed up. Here we go.
perfect.
How do you make surveys anonymous?
Perfect. I think that's a great question, and it's getting more and more relevant, obviously, with internet security. Especially if you're gathering data, possibly in the healthcare industry or in Europe and stuff like that. It's almost become paramount to keep any trackable data, I guess, encrypted, and
Mm-hmm.
that's super easy to do. And there are two ways you could do it. Sometimes you might just say, that any survey that I create should never collect any personally identifiable data. That can be done, but you need to contact kind of your account manager and he'll set that up for you. But if you want to do it for a specific survey, you create a survey and all you do is go into settings right here. And if you just scroll down, I think there are two options that kind of almost go hand in hand.
Okay.
You just kind of disable firstly location data. So what this means is, based on your IP, and we are obviously able to give some sense of location to where you might be. Obviously, that's not 100%
Mm,
accurate, but it's still some amount of data that we capture. So you turn that off, and you turn on what we call respondent anonymity in assurance. So what this is going to do is any data that kind of can identify you, like your email address, phone number, IP address, device agent, anything that can identify you will be 256-bit encrypted. So
okay.
no one absolutely can get access to this, and this is irreversible, right? And this is kind of ensured by QuestionPro. So once you enable this, not only will your survey be anonymous, but the footer will also have a guarantee that not only are we saying it's anonymous, but QuestionPro is kind of liable to keep the
Mm-hmm.
survey anonymous as well.
And 256-bit encryption is actually what the NSA uses. Fun fact. I only know that from years of working in cryptocurrency because that's like a big, anonymity is a big thing there. So what you're saying is to get an anonymity assurance is you just got to scroll down in your settings and turn it on.
That's as simple as that.
That's awesome. Wow, so easy. So let's go to the next. What are some guiding rules of thumb related to the proper length of a survey in terms of time and the number of questions that
Mhm.
you want to, for an audience?
Yep. So I think this question is going to be a little bit more abstract. I don't think there's any thumb rule. Like no one could tell you exactly what it should be. But I think some of the best practices could be, firstly, your survey should be intuitive. So if you have a really bland survey, like again something like a Google form or something like that, then you probably don't want to ask more than maybe 10 questions. But then when you use something like QuestionPro or some of these dynamic survey tools where you have star rating and you have heat maps and hotspots, the experience of actually answering the survey is much better. So you can almost ask 30% more questions. So that means
Okay.
You could go to up to 15, 16 questions, without having any, I would say, response fatigue, essentially. So I would say, somewhere the length of a survey should be, in the 10 to maybe 20 question range. In terms of time, it should be anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes. And after that, what we call your fatigue or response fatigue does start creeping in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so try to keep the survey, if it's a lengthier survey, try to do it in waves, but try to keep it in this, I would say, sweet spot, to get the best quality of data.
I love that. And how that actually follows into another question. How do you keep your participants engaged without overwhelming them, especially if you are trying to collect a lot of data at one time?
Yeah, well, again, I think that's a great question, challenge, I guess, almost every researcher is facing, where you want to really ask as many questions as possible, and still keep the respondent, I guess, engaged. So I think you
Hmm.
you can almost break this down into, what is the data you're asking. If it's general feedback about a service that you provided, or if it's something, government related, where your feedback could actually make a difference, either to the community or to the service you've got. So in such cases, I think, you in general, people are, 6 to 7 minutes also, in terms of survey
Okay.
time, or maybe 25 questions, 30 questions in terms of survey length is not really a problem. But when you're doing, pretty much ad hoc research, where, it's just, out of the blue survey, we just need your feedback because, we want some insights, or we want to make some decisions. So then it gets
Hmm.
harder. You need to think about engaging the people, so that, they don't get bored and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So here are the question types you use, the colors you use, how accessible your survey is, the amount of gamification you do. So, once you're done with, 50% of the survey, have like a hooray, you're halfway there, and things like that. So these things
Oh,
come into the picture to, keep them engaged. And I think one key factor here is, keep the, open-ended questions where people have to actually type in as low as possible. As you can imagine,
okay.
almost 40% data comes from mobile and tablets, and, switching from clicking to then, keypad, then to clicking to keypad, just, start frustration starts creeping in. So I, try to
Interesting.
keep open ends at the minimum, and, towards the end if possible.
Okay, so couple takeaways I heard in there was 25 questions is okay as long as you keep it going quickly and have some, gamification in the middle, like hooray, you're halfway through, or the little, survey bar. Don't constantly go between, multiple choice to open-ended question. I know multiple choice isn't the best survey question, but it's the one I could think of. Between multiple choice and open-ended, and don't go back and forth. So keep your open-ended questions towards the end, and realize that people are often are on mobile now, especially that's where I read all my emails. I ordered, like 4 pairs of shoes off of my mobile phone, off of my cell phone the other day. And so, we're really mobile first these days. And so think about that when creating your survey. Is that a good summary?
Absolutely, that's, I think, the best summary could come with.
Perfect. So actually, you even mentioned something about colors. Is what is your best survey design that seems to work? This I don't remember who put this in here, but is this person is always having trouble picking colors in deciding whether to have all the questions on one page or one by one.
That, I think, again, that's, I would say the answer to this is a little bit abstract. It really depends. It really
You don't
depends on the
have the
brand.
you don't have the ultimate guide, Kartik?
This actually gives me some food for thought. We could structure this into maybe 5 or 6 themes. But again, it really depends on the brand. For example, if you're into
Mm-hmm.
bakery, and if you're into, sweet stuff, you go for a slightly darker theme to just give a bit of contrast. But if you're, let's say, in the meat industry, or if you're in heavy, let's say, heavy metal and stuff like that, you really go for the bright whites and, those kind of colors, again, to create some level of contrast. But irrespective of, the color combination you pick, I think, what's most important, it should be readable, it should be pleasant, it should be well designed. Your logo should be fitting right, your footer should be relevant.
Yeah.
These are, I would just say, some best practices. But if
Okay.
you had to, have a bet and just say that what's the color that's, always going to work, it's going to be a white canvas with black text. You could not go wrong with that. So I think that's the safest. Or even like a light blue and white kind of combination, which is kind of the question for default. We've done a lot of
Mhm.
research to even come up with that combination, which is
Yeah.
very readable, very pleasant, and very neutral, right? So if you had to play safe, I would say a light blue and white with some black text is what I would go for. Absolute neutral theme.
Great. Well, those were some of the easy ones. Let's see if we can find some harder ones now. Is it possible to create crosstabs that can be inserted into other documents?
So could you give me a bit of a little bit more background on that? So when you say inserted, do you want to really insert a real-time crosstab? So as in how you're collecting data, that the document should actually update the crosstab, or do you just, I mean, if you want to just export a crosstab from QuestionPro, uh, then obviously you could just print a PDF or just export it into PPT and then obviously use it into any report that you're doing. But if you have to do it real time, if you want to do a real time crosstab and embed that into maybe a real time document that you have, unfortunately, that's not possible at the moment.
Okay, so if you want to export it into, you can do that into a PowerPoint or a PDF. Just export a general crosstab. Is that right? Is there such a thing as a general crosstab? And then, but if you want it updated in live time, you can't do that right now.
Correct, correct. So if
Oh,
you go into your crosstab on QuestionPro
okay.
and go into any crosstab, and here you'll see once you've done your cross tabulations, you've chosen what you want to do and stuff like that. You
Mm-hmm.
just go here into Excel if you want to process it further into PDF or PPT, and then just use it into any of the reports.
Okay.
That's super easy. But if you had to do it obviously real time, then you'll need to use something like a Tableau or a reporting
Yeah.
engine where we could obviously pump data real time. But that's not something as simple as embedding something into maybe a Google slide or something like that.
Yeah. Tableau, I feel, is everyone's like Achilles heel these days, at least in my circles with my marketing friends. Um, and then, okay, so we actually have a couple of questions coming in here.
Mhm.
Mark is asking, what is the right question type to use for pricing insights?
I love that you asked that, Mark, and let me quickly actually go into maybe my one of the surveys that I have. So on
Oh,
QuestionPro, if you actually go to add question, what you're going to notice is we obviously have a wide variety of questions. I think it's over about 80 questions that we have, question types that we have. So for that, we've kind of segregated it into basic, which is your day-to-day questions like a multiple choice, select many, matrix, and rating, and all of that. And if you go into advanced, you're really going to find a little more research oriented questions like a conjoint, match diff, heat map, card sorting, text highlighter, all this kind of stuff. And here, if you see, we actually have a section called price analysis, under which we got our Van Westendorp. So, Van Westendorp is typically, you're going to really ask 4 price points from a consumer. At what price is
mhm.
it too expensive? At what price is it the right value? At what price is beginning to get expensive and, too cheap? And then you really come up with, the right price by market and by segment of population, right? And then you also have Gable Granger that you could do. And what Gable Granger does is, you'll really have, let's say, a product, a product is maybe a set of batteries, Duracell batteries. And then you want to go from, right from 50 cents in increments of 50 cents, right up to, $8. And you keep asking
Mhm.
them, is $5 the right price? If you hit no, it's going to ask a random number between 5 and let's say 50 cents. And let's say it was $2.50 and you say yes. So it's again going to ask a random number between 2.50 to 5. So this is how
Okay.
kind of the Gable Granger works, right? And obviously has a set of analysis associated to it, right? So I would not say there's a right way of doing this. You could do Van Westendorp, you could do a Gable Granger as well. It really depends on what the product is and how low the prices are. If it's a consumer product like batteries or something in the, I would say, $0 to maybe $15-$20 range, then you're better off doing, I think, a Gable Granger, or even up to $50 you could do a Gable Granger. But if you're doing pricing studies for maybe laptops, mobile phones, cars, and stuff like that, then you probably want to use the van version doc essentially. So it really depends on how expensive your product is and how much variation is an acceptable variation in price.
Wow, that was very detailed. Thank you, Kartik. I feel like after all this Garber Granger, I finally understood it. And that's a slight dig at our president of Insight, Dan Fleetwood. So if he's watching this, I get you. Also, speaking of Dan, anyone who's watching, make sure to join us on Fridays for the same kind of for a live with Dan, where he talks about all the upcoming research and insights in our QuestionPro platform and interviews other QuestionPro employees. So here we go. Next question. Can we create multiple views of a report?
Awesome.
So-
Whoever asked that question gets 2 thumbs up from me. And the reason I'm so excited to answer this is we've actually made this announcement just a couple of weeks back. So I'm super excited to show this one.
Right.
So let's go quickly into analysis. And here you'll see by default, everyone's used to, what we used to call this the dashboard first. And you just had obviously the standard dashboard. Again, we have a lot of customizations here. Like you could change the type of the graph, you could change the mean calculation, the variance, the standard deviation, all that stuff. We always supported that, and it was a very strong dashboard. But obviously, people wanted like custom dashboards. Like you want one dashboard for the exec team, which really has a snapshot of the data. You want another view for someone who's ground level who needs complete insight to it. So now you have the option here to kind of create these different dashboards. I can just go into new report, give it a new give it a name. So let's say report for Mark, for example. And then I can then just choose which questions I want to show. How do I want to show it? The logo, the footer, the color, the graph type, and everything after that can be done here. And once that's done, you can share it as well. So you can just click on share, you get the link, and you can share it. So you can create different views, and pretty much each dashboard can show exactly what you want it to show.
So you could create one for like the marketing team, the executive team, the sales team, right? And they each get what's important to them based on the data you collected.
And all real-time dashboards, right? So these once you send the dashboards, you don't need to ever send it again. It's all real time. So anytime they click on it, they're going to get the most updated report.
Oh, so you could send it at the very beginning and people could watch the data come in instead of having to wait till it's done and then send it out.
Correct.
That's awesome. Right. I feel like I just learned something. And if you're ever curious about what's happening at QuestionPro, or you've had your eye on something that's possibly in beta, you can actually go to our QuestionPro /updates page to see what's happening. And I'm going to post that in the comments right now because I think it's one of those things that we don't always promote as much as we should. And so if you're curious about if there's a feature that's on the roadmap and you want to know where it's at in development, you can always check out this page and then hit up your account executive if you'd like to be enrolled in a beta test. You like how that plug I did for Anoop and his beta testing? Okay, so another question is, how can you eliminate poor quality responses?
Perfect. Again, I think that's a great question, and
I know all the people who submitted questions ahead of time were really on the ball.
Talking about data quality, I love the quality of questions coming in. They're really, I think, something that a lot of users face. So again, in terms of data quality, what is going to happen a lot of the times is, you have 1,000 responses, but some of them have just answered it too fast for you to really take that response seriously. Sometimes you have gibberish kind of data. Sometimes you have someone just selected A or option A for set of 4 or 5 questions. So clearly, very likely you want to probably take a second look at this data, or even almost exclude it from an analysis. So it's as simple as just go into manage data and go into data quality. And here you'll see a set of kind of automated tools that we have to kind of detect. I think most of it, I think we would almost cover 90% in terms of how accuracy. So things like, someone who answers it too fast. So if the average time taken to complete your survey is, 10 minutes, and someone is answering in less than, let's say, 7 minutes, you want that to be flagged. If there's any
Hold on, I
gibberish
have a
data.
question. Hold on.
Mhm.
Do on speed traps, do the users set it or does QuestionPro set it?
You can do it both ways.
Okay.
You could do it where you say that, you know what, I know that my survey should take about 7 minutes, so you can set up a
Okay.
static time. Or you could just say use real time average, in which case QuestionPro sets it up, right? So it's just going to take the real time average and run a deviation based on that.
I gotcha. Okay. Because like I would never know, it's like, well, I think it takes 5 minutes. That's great though. So speed traps we have our industry average and then, or you could set it as a user.
No, so it's more than industry average. It's actually the
Oh.
average for your survey, right? So if two people have answered
Oh.
it and they've taken 5 and 6 minutes, so the average is 5.5 minutes, right? So it's going to take the real
Oh.
time average as in how data starts coming in. So that's what we
Oh.
call the real time average.
Even better.
Yep.
Okay, and then gibberish words.
And then gibberish, obviously, if someone is just typed through, obviously it's going to get detected.
Okay.
Duplicate text, someone just typing NA, or so just copy pasting certain text everywhere. Duplicate IPs, all checkboxes or a pattern of checkbox selection. So all these things get kind of flagged automatically. And then you can choose
Mhm.
to either just delete them, exclude them from analysis, or go and manually approve some of these. Or then if it's too much data, then just to be safe, just exclude them and run your analysis without it.
Okay, that's awesome. That sounds so easy. And how do we find out if, I guess the speed trap would be, another question was, how do we find out if a respondent spent enough time answering a question?
Yeah, so I think if you just want to control quality, then you just use a real-time average and have a deviation of about 25-30%. So, say that 70%, you need to take at least 70% of the average time to, be qualified as a valid response. But if you had to see it on an individual level, if you just go into responses, and if you just pick any response, you'll see there's a lot of flagged responses here. But if I just pick
Yeah.
any completed response, I can see exactly how much time they spent on the survey. So I just go into individual report,
Okay.
and one of the data points right here is going to be time taken to complete the survey. So here it is. So he's taken 147 seconds. This particular response, right? But if once you do data quality, you don't really need to go and check individually how much time is taken. He's either taken enough time or he hasn't, right? You can
Yeah.
almost check every time.
Okay, so here's one. How do we loop blocks of questions based on answers to earlier questions?
Perfect. I love that question as well.
I was like, it
Let's,
sounds like a looping question, but then it said blocks of questions. So I'm curious.
yep. So just once you've firstly set your blocks, and now if you see here, if I just quickly go into block flow, you'll notice I have about 5 or 6 blocks here. I got my demographics, laptop 2, van version dop, follow up, conjoint max diff, and an image chooser and heat map.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say I want to loop van version dop based on a particular response, right? So I just go into that block. So let's quickly look for that block. And here it is. And just I'm going to click right here and I go into looping. And I just enable looping. And then I could say, okay, loop either directly. So I could just say that loop this, 3, 4, 5, whatever amount of times you need, or loop
Okay.
based on a question. So I can say based on a question, select which question it is, and then based on the answer selected or not selected, displayed, not displayed, or all choices, I can set the loop and the piping text for each loop. As simple as that, although
So simple. It just requires looping and piping and text. It's fine. I feel like I had to act as the voice of the watcher right now, but I'm sure the watcher knows way more about this than I do. But that's great. So you're saying we can loop the entire block also, though. So you have 3 questions in there,
so
and you
yeah,
could
so
loop
this
that
one has
block.
3 questions, and all of these are going to loop based on what they or how they've answered a set of questions.
I gotcha. Great. Oh, it looks like we have some more people joining. Yes, thanks to you guys for joining. Kartik has just been going through some of our basics of, do we do looping blocks? Yes. Can you create multiple report views? Yes. And then we have a new question is, Can you hide a question but still create demographic data?
So you want to hide a question and create demographic data. So I'm not completely got the question. So
So I'm
I
wondering, can you create demographic data even without asking them for it?
absolutely, absolutely. So that's what
Ooh,
we call, I guess, custom variables almost, right? So for example,
okay.
you have an email list, right? You have about 1,000 email addresses. You got first name, last name, you've got age, you got gender, you got maybe where they live, the vehicle they drive. So you already have some information about them. So clearly you need this data for analysis. You want to do cross tabs on this, you want to do filtering on this, you maybe want to set up some logic also based on some of this data, but obviously you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to ask it to them again because that's going to increase your survey length and create more survey fatigue. So that's what we call custom variables. We support n number of custom variables. So you can just have a contact list with n number of rows and n number of columns, and the system will automatically consume that. So for basically column two will be custom one, column three of your data would be custom two, and so on. And then you
Okay.
could use kind of that in almost as mail merge tags to set up your logic, to do cross tabulations or anything within the system.
Great. Actually, another system question we have is, can you use multilingual email templates for specific contexts?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you go to distribute any survey, I think even before distribution, let me actually add a couple of versions of the language of the
Okay.
survey. So it's going to
How many
language.
languages do we have?
I think we have what, about 80, 85 languages. And I've never really counted it. I know it's a lot. And I've never come
So
across somebody
many.
asking for a language that we don't have. But yeah, let's go ahead and add maybe Spanish and French. So go ahead and quickly add that. And that's done. So now when I go to distribute, obviously what I want should happen is, people who I know are in the states should see the survey like in English. Someone who's in France should obviously see it in French, and someone, let's say, who's in Spain or Mexico or something, should see it in Spanish. And for people who I don't know, right, I don't know where they are, I don't have that information, they should just
Mhm.
get the option to select which language they want to say, answer the survey in, right? um, so that can very easily be done. So you just go into distribute, and you come into templates, and I can go and create a new template. And here, this is my kind of what you see the default language here. So if we
Mhm.
don't know anything about the respondent, we don't know which country he is in or what's his kind of preferred language, then they would just get the invitation. In this is the default invitation. And typically,
Okay.
what you'll do here is have all three versions added, right? Your first would be English, second would be, let's say, Spanish, and third would be French. So that's
Mhm.
what we'll do for the default, where we don't know who the respondent is. So in that case, we'll possibly send it in all three languages. And then what we'll also do here is I'm going to go and create my English template. So if I know that it's somebody from the US, they'll get this template. And then I'm going to create my French template. So if I know they are from France or French speaking nation, and then it'll automatically get kind of whatever I put in this template. And then finally, I'll do the same thing for Spanish, right? And I'm going to create the Spanish template. So once this is done, then when you upload your contact list, when you have your email list, one of the columns of data that you have would be a language identifier or a region identifier, like US or English or whatever that is, and then our system will detect it and send the correct language template to the correct person.
Awesome. That is, man, we were going through these like I was going to get you, and then you came in. Okay, so we have some more people joining, and I'm so excited they were able to find us on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. Man, we're everywhere now. This is almost better than the webinar. Um, and Wendy has asked a question that they would like to ask for a testimonial inside their survey, and then sign a release that could be downloaded. How is that? Would we be able to do that?
So I think what you'll need to do is if you go into your survey, in the end, what you're going to possibly have is something like this. Once you've got a testimonial, once you've got everything, you'll have a question like this. Let's say, single select. Uh, let's say, do you give us permission to publish this review, and let's say this is a yes or no. Obviously, if they hit yes, or you want them to sign it as well and maybe give their name and stuff like that. And if they say no, they disqualify, or you can't use it, right? So they skip that signature part. So after this, what I'm going to do is go to add question, go to advanced, and add the signature question, and just say, let's say, please sign here, or whatever that is. And then I would
Right.
say, okay, if someone says yes, they actually go to the next question, which is to sign. And if I say no, I just go to the thank you page. So I've not got the signature, and I
Right.
save it. And as simple as that. So if I hit yes to, posting my kind of testimonial, then I'm going to have to sign it. If not, then I directly go to the thank you page.
And then is there any way for them to download the signature?
Is this for the respondents themselves, or is this for the person who's collecting the data? Obviously, all the signature is available to them along with the raw data, right? So
Okay.
you
It
obviously
would
have
be
to, along with
the
the
signature would be available to Wendy
correct the
and the
signature and
permission.
the timestamp, and whatever you need to verify that they signed it in that particular session. So
Okay.
that is going to be available to you in your raw data.
Awesome. Good to know. One of our guys from QuestionPro jumped in here and said, who can people talk to about QuestionPro's leading sample data quality technology?
Uh, I can guess who that is, I think.
I would also guess that his name would be Tim Cornelius. Oh, here we go. Wendy did a follow-up. Perfect, Wendy. Let's see what she said. If it is a straight signature, how do we link the survey input?
So I think Wendy, what I'll do is I'm going to reach out to you, on a separate thread. I think we have your contact information.
Yeah.
But because it really depends on the nature, like if it's something that's going to be legally binding or something like that, which is maybe sensitive, then there's a different way of doing this where you need to authenticate some more information for that to be obviously usable. But if it's something, sometimes just accepting certain terms and conditions and a static signature is almost enough. So in that case, it's super easy to do. So I think I'll reach out to you personally, and there are a couple of options here that we could utilize.
Awesome. Okay, let's do a couple more and then we'll wrap up. And then this video will always be available on YouTube and we'll be sending it out. Sentiment analyzer. Are there other output interfaces to IBM Watson available for the user other than the standard API?
No, so currently, obviously, we are using IBM Watson engine, and we've come up with obviously what the way we kind of show the data. So I'll quickly actually show that as well. So we just go into analytics. You have kind of our sentiment analysis, which is powered by IBM Watson.
Okay.
And it's right here. And I'll actually just go to a help file. It has enough information. So if you see here, I think this is a standard output where you have almost this kind of diagram, and that's almost color coded in three. Green is a positive sentiment, yellow is neutral, and red is negative. And then you could do drill down, so you could click on any of these sentiments and see what are the other kind of almost sub sentiments that come up to that particular sentiment. So this is almost the output that we've gone for. Obviously, there are many ways you could show this. You could show a standard bar chart, you could show different ways you could do this really, but this is at least the output that we do on QuestionPro. We don't have the option currently to kind of change this output, obviously given the complexity and given that we do all of this real time irrespective of the volume of data you have.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, good to know. And then I feel like someone teed this up for us, but I promise this wasn't a QuestionPro person. What are the options QuestionPro offers that Qualtrics doesn't? Are they less versatile than you? Thank you. That was not a QuestionPro person.
I'm almost not going to answer this in public right now. if this is probably if it's someone outside of QuestionPro, I would love to do one-on-one and actually walk you through all that we do that they couldn't, and some of the stuff that they can do also that we possibly can't, or do it in a different way. So I'd love to do that certainly, but yeah.
I gotcha. And then does Question Pro have access to a certain type of person based on demographics that could take surveys for them?
Absolutely. I think that's what we call, I think, QuestionPro audience. So if you come
Hmm.
here on the top left is, all the products that we offer. So like Crystal showed initially, we have different products for different, I guess, use cases or different demographics. And here, one of the products you'll see is audience. So I
Yep.
could actually click on audience, create a project, say what my demographics are, and how much data I need, by when do I need it, and fairly quickly, I think within 24 hours, you should be able to get at least 1,000, 1,500 responses. That's kind of the speed that we deliver data in. And sometimes you need very granular kind of targeting.
Yeah.
Uh, so things like someone who drives like a Ford, particular model of a Ford car in California or something like that, right? So this is not
Hmm.
something that you could do automatically. So in that case, we have audience managers as well, who kind of work with you closely and help you with some of this kind of niche targeting, or some, I would say, complex targeting.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad. I think that all of our product heads will be glad to know that we've been plugging all of their solutions over this time period. Because I think there was also even a question on, can we do employee surveys? And so, and the
Mhm.
answer is yes with Question Pro Workforce.
Absolutely, and I think I'll just speak a minute on that. I think if you go into workforce, employee survey is obviously very broad, but we really
Hmm.
divide that into if you see here the different types of employee surveys. So you got culture assessment, where you want to really assess the culture, see where your company stands, and do you want to kind of pivot from that culture. You got your onboarding kind of experience. You got your exit surveys. You got 360 evaluations. You got your weekly pulse, organization pulse, and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, employee surveys, even I guess the most basic survey on the planet could still, obviously you could send that to employees. But if you want to do it systematically, and if you want to do it at different checkpoints, then obviously we have the complete suite available as well.
Awesome. Well, do you have any last nuggets of wisdom for us?
So I not at this point. I think I would say uh, just keep your surveys in general. Just keep your surveys short, keep them relevant, keep them this the I would say the data trend keeps changing. What we should do in 2000, even 15 is substantially different than 16, and
Yeah.
then 17. And post pandemic, again, the way you ask surveys, the data you ask, and the way you consume, even your I would say baseline data has also changed for many industries. So I would just say it's a very um, it's an industry that keeps changing. So you need to keep up to speed, and we are here to help you always.
And if we didn't get to your question, I'm definitely going to be sending all the answers, especially the long form ones, out. And then, oh, it looks like we got one last one about um, can you, here we go, actually, Kartik. Are you
Mhm.
able to link responses with client records on Salesforce?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, we have a complete, I would say, end-to-end integration with Salesforce, right? So every question that you have on QuestionPro can be mapped to a native or a custom field or object on Salesforce, and all of this is real time. If there's some data on Salesforce that you wanted to pull into QuestionPro for analysis, you could do that as well. And then the actual kind of, let's say, we have what we call a response viewer, which is kind of an individual report of for that particular respondent. That can also be mapped. You could create a custom field or a custom object on Salesforce called, let's say, individual response, and that can be the link to that could be sent there quite easily.
So create a custom field on Salesforce that links to your respondents.
To that links to the response viewer essentially, right?
Viewer.
So
Okay.
for every contact, you will have like a link to their individual response, apart from what's mapped obviously to different fields or objects in Salesforce.
Awesome. And then we'll be sending detailed responses of all the questions, even some that we missed because they're a little repeated. But we tried to get through, I think we got through 30 plus questions, Kartik.
Wow.
And so, I know. I'm so grateful that you were able to join us, and we will definitely be doing this again because now I think as we can get in the habit of it, people will definitely be coming to stump you. Not we
I, I,
didn't get to
I,
this
I
time.
think we should keep doing it till I get stumped, right? Till the time I said that. I need to get back to you on this. You know, the day I say that, I guess that's probably the last episode.
The day you get stumped is the day that you just disappear. Like I'm done.
Yeah, now stump somebody else, I guess.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to all of our customers and our watchers for joining us. We will be sending out a formal recap of this and all of our questions. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Crystal, for organizing this, and thanks
Yep.
everyone for participating. It has been super fun.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.